Hello, everybody. How are you? My name is Seppi, rhymes with Peppy, and I'm coming to you live from Madrid, Spain. Welcome to this year's CMX Summit, Day 2 here. If you can hear me and see me, please say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Want to get the crowd warmed up here before we hop in. So just say hi. Make sure you can find the chat. Great. Oh my gosh, we have Bellevue, Washington. Great. Thank you guys so much for joining, getting to the heart of community. I'm going to get our presenters here on. So let me grab Craig one moment. All right, David's here. Hello, David. Great to see you. Grabbing Craig here. Let's see. All right, should be coming on soon. Great. Thank you guys so much. So in today's panel conversation, getting to the heart of community, you're going to be hearing from Culture Amp's lead people scientist, Craig Forman, who you can see right there. And you're also going to be hearing from the real heart and soul of their community, their culture activists, who will be sharing what inspired them to help build the world's largest community of people who believe a better world of work is possible. So please join me in welcoming Craig, Gary, Ximena, and Rachel. Gonna put the virtual class.
Thank you, Seppi.
All right, pass it off to you.
All righty, Seppi, you'll go off screen here, and we're gonna start up. Hopefully, y'all can hear that. Great. So look, we're gonna do this a little differently, and it's gonna be kind of engaging today. But at first, we're gonna welcome you all in. And just let's get started. So hopefully you can hear the music and you see www.slido.com. So what I'm gonna ask you to do is go to www.slido.com. All you have to do is enter culture first in the box and it will bring up a question about how do you feel right now? Let's just see what's going on. How do people feel in the room? One word, what are you bringing into the room right now? So I think I can show you here. So there you go. One word. What? There we go. Cool. Jazzed. Feeling good. This works. It's working. Super excited. We're going to give it just a couple minutes to let people get in the room and see what's going on. And we're going to interact. So bringing up Slido, we're going to use it again in a bit. So it's good that you're in there. And what I'll be doing is kind of turning off and turning on some questions, and we can interact this way. Tired. I hear you. Tiring, feeling good, thankful. We got a big excited. I don't know if that means we had more than one. Energized, fascinated, intrigued. Aw, I love this. So good. And we're going to talk about that too, kind of what we do in our community is like this idea of trying to connect and think of any way that we can connect with people. And we thought that the Slido was a really great way to see what's going on, who's coming in the room, what are we bringing? Music's good. Music never hurts. By the way, you can use some of these. I try to embed little tips in everything I do. So also, if you want to follow up with me afterwards and talk about ways that, if you're thinking about ways to go virtual, these are great tips and ways to do that. All right. Great. So tell you what, we're going to, I'm going to go ahead and turn the music off. Get set up here and we're going to get into it. I do want to switch this up here from Slido to, alrighty. So I think you can all see me right now. Getting to the heart of community. First of all, thank you. Thank you for choosing to join us for this session. We did that opening just like an opportunity to connect a bit. My name is Craig Forman. I'm a lead people scientist at Culture Amp. My background is in organizational psychology. My passion is around helping workplaces, really just changing the way that we work, rethinking our workplaces. And I've worked with organizations for a long time around that. And I had the opportunity last year to partner with Culture Amp to build our Culture First community or evolve our Culture First community. And that's what we've been up to. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Culture Amp is a Australian-based company. And in Australia, I've learned something I've never seen here, and I really like it. When they start presentations, they acknowledge the land. They acknowledge that they are visitors, that there were people before them. So what I wanted to really quickly do is share that, my name is Craig. I'm in Northern California, and I'm on Miwok land. So the Miwok were the native people that lived here, the indigenous people prior. Gary is coming in from San Diego. You'll meet Gary in a bit, and he's in the Kumeyaay land. Ximena is in South Florida, and she is in the Tequesta land. And Rachel is in Kansas City, Missouri, on the Kickapoo land. So we just want to honor that we, there is long and there's depth, and I think it's a really beautiful tradition. And I wanted to bring that here into this as well. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back, and I'm going to set this up right now. We're going to go back into Slido in a moment here. And what I want to do is turn that on. We're gonna involve you in this as well. So I want you to take a minute. You're here. You chose to be here. We talked about getting to the heart of community. I will be joined by some of our chapter leads, right? Because the whole idea here is we're going to tell you a little bit about our community, but our leads really are the heartbeat of our community. They're the people out in the world that have stepped up to build these chapters. So what we wanted to do was ask you for a minute, think about briefly, if you could share one thing you'd like to walk away from today's session where you get some more insight. So I'm coming to you with these leads, these people that are in the world that have stepped up, volunteering to do this work. We want to dig in and share our reflections. So if you would, let's go back into Slido. You should see the question in there now and just take a minute. Yeah, great. This is great. And what's going on is Gary and Jimena and Rachel are going to be looking at these as well on the other side. So let's see, and you can see what's coming in right now. Let's do this. Building deeper connection with strangers. What brings your leads joy from being involved? These are all great. The music's still playing, is it? Huh? Do other people still hear the music? I thought it was off. Let's see what's going on. Virtual vulnerability, wonderful. Okay, so look, we're gonna keep those coming, and our leads are gonna come in, and part of when we address and talk, they're gonna look at those and pick some of these to speak to. So what I want to do is kick this off and talk about a few things. Look, Culture Amp is a software company, but we stand for something. We believe in something around what can be different in the world of work, and we've had a history of bringing people together to have conversations, discuss, and create community. We got very intentional about it last year and said, let's go bigger and create this chapter program, and that's something that I'm leading, particularly on the events that were in person, now virtual. And we wanted to do it in a way that was going to be fluid, and we wanted to do it in a way that would allow for a Berlin chapter to grow, and a Melbourne, Australia chapter to grow, and a San Diego chapter to grow in their own unique way for their own unique community that would tie it together. And we came up with 3 things. There's just 3 main things that we do. We want to be clear that we are clear on the who and the what. People that believe a better world of work is possible and are willing to take action to do something about it. If that fits, that's you. The second is 5 core principles, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But these are kind of a value system that connects all of us. No matter where you are, you can do different things. But these values are what hold us together. And the third is a model or a framework for how we run a meeting, right? And what does a culture first meeting look like? And hopefully at the very end, we'll talk a little bit about that, because I've built this around that as well. So, but what I want to talk to you today about is the principles, the culture first principles, because I think from one side of the equation is where's the heart and how we built this? It's the principles. And then the heart of how it comes to life are our leads. So really quickly, let me tell you about our principles. The first, foster belonging and acceptance. We want to create environments where people feel like they can show up, they can be accepted, they can belong, and also a place for all of us who want to change the work world to model and lean into this so we can bring it back to our workplaces. So we know what that means when we're talking about it. We can experience it and play with that. So we want to create an environment in our gatherings to do just that. The second is a willingness to reflect and grow. Growth mindset. Are you willing to come together and have conversations and be open and hear alternative perspectives and maybe question your perspectives? Very important to us. The third, one of Culture Amp's values, have the courage to be vulnerable. That's the only value of ours that we brought across. We believe in this. We believe that vulnerability is courage, and it takes vulnerability to make these sorts of shifts. And if we can create space where people can, again, lean into that vulnerability, it makes it easier then to go into the world that we're trying to change and bring that as well. So we wanted to bring that. Fourth, there it is. Put learning into action. Action's embedded in what we do. And you notice that when I talk about who we are, people that are willing to do something to make change, right? We are a community of people that want to drive a change, a difference, right? Even Culture Amp through our software is trying to make a change. So if we're coming together and only connecting and having conversations, wonderful, but change may not happen. So we wanted to embed that in our value system, that we're looking to change something. And finally, a different one, connection inside, business outside. When we were building this, we learned quickly that people really wanted to, they liked these events, but they would say that sometimes it became transactional, or it was just about doing business. Look, we're a for-profit company. We understand, and we're bringing great people together that do business. So what we thought was, look, when we're together as humans, but if wonderful things happen outside of here and opportunities happen because of it, great. But when we're together as humans first. We're not there to make transactions happen. So these are our 5 core principles. These, we believe, are the heart of what we're doing. So what I want to do now is spend some time with our chapter leads. And we're doing good on time. I want to spend time with our chapter leads. And I'm going to bring each chapter lead on. And then they're going to tell you a little bit about why they do what they do. And then they're going to pick one of the things that came up in the slides to address. So the first person, I'm going in alphabetical order, is, let me turn this thing off. Hold on here. There we go. Gary Ware. Gary, thank you. Can you hear us all right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Gary, our San Diego chapter lead, inspiration to me when it comes to putting together really good looking formats. So thank you. Look, I don't want to waste any of the time because this is fast. 2 things we're going to talk about. The first is why do you do this work, and what would you want to share with other community builders? Now, remember, Gary, I do this as my job. Gary stepped up and got involved. So I really want people to hear from somebody like you, why, what's going on, and what would you share with others?
Yeah. The reason why I do this is all about intentionality. And if I could just share a quick story, when I worked for this digital marketing agency, when we first started, the culture was amazing, but we weren't intentional. We did all the right things. We were vulnerable. We connected. But then as we grew up, we got serious. And then the culture started to fracture. And good people started leaving. And it left me wondering, there has to be a better way. And so when I heard about Culture Amp and the things that you were doing, Craig, with the Culture First community, I was like, yes, this. How can we get people in spaces together, whether it's in person or virtually, to talk about what's working, what's not? And it's not that transactional situation where we can share real life stories. And yeah, that's why I got involved.
And since you've gotten started, Gary, and now that you're involved, you've helped launch San Diego, you've run multiple events. What's been going on? What's been the experience for you now?
Wow. It's been interesting. I feel less alone because there are so many people that when we launched it in San Diego, and big thanks to my co-leader, Emily Goodson. She's the one who moved down from LA, who started LA. She came to San Diego and she's like, let's rock and roll. But when we created that first meeting, it's, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We're like, if anyone going to show up to a virtual event to talk about culture, so many people raised their hands that said, yes, we need to talk about this. And our very first meeting was on a touchy topic. It was about race. It was about inclusion. It was about all the things that are going on in the world and how can we start to make shifts in our own organization. And 30 people were extremely vulnerable, shared tips and tricks with each other. And because of the process that we had, it created that psychological safety, and it was beautiful. And so everyone's so excited for each and every event, and it's weird.
Powerful. And by the way, for everybody listening, we started this in person. We really kicked it off in January formally to be all in-person events. And we all, I think probably just before Gary got there, were like, oh gosh, what do we do? But that was where we leaned into, like, okay, this is what it's about. This is our why. How do we go virtual? And we worked with some outside resources to help us think about how to bring more vulnerability and connection virtually, and then kind of built that in. But our leads have taken it. Now, Gary, I'm looking at some of these things coming across. You probably are too, but there's one I think that jumps out for me that you probably of all people should speak to. I'm seeing this idea of virtual vulnerability, virtual connection. We're going to do more work together because I think you're a master. So if there's one thing, I mean, that's the one I'd probably want, unless you have something else calling you, that's the one I'd love to hear more about you thinking about. What can we share with others? I'm sure many people here are having to think about virtual now. How can they get more vulnerable, more connection via virtual?
Yeah, when we first started doing these virtual events, I was a little bit skeptical at first. It's like, can we create that same sort of feeling that we had when we were in person? That dose, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. And the Culture First community nailed it. And I think the main thing, like I said before, is intentionality. What do we want people to experience? And then two, how can we reimagine this experience in this virtual environment? And so the things like what you did in the beginning, Greg, of inviting people to, how are you feeling right now? And when they see other people be brave and be honest, it's that duality, right? You could be excited and tired, but seeing that from the leaders, being modeled by the leaders, seeing other people in the community stated as well, you start to create that feeling of psychological safety. And that is the bedrock. Once that's created, and you invite people to leave whatever is going on the outside, so that we can have this space where we can reflect and connect together, the vulnerability just starts to happen.
Mm-hmm. I agree. We went on this journey together in many ways. And I think part of this whole thing is letting go of what was and thinking about the new medium and build for it. I think we try to just put up a slide presentation virtually, it was hard enough in a room. So when using tools like Slido, and to all of you leads, I think the same as lean into your vulnerability. I know it might feel weird the first time, or how do we do that? But it's working, as far as like I said, using a new tool, try something different and show your vulnerability and willing to try something new. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but it does. We do as leads model what we want to see from others. So, Gary, any final thoughts?
No, the willingness to fail. You're a good point. Not everything's going to work the first time, but again, as a leader, you have to model that vulnerability. No one knows what the hell you're doing right now. Craig, I can just acknowledge you for different moments. You're the prime example of just modeling the type of environment that you have to create, and then other people follow suit.
Awesome. Gary, thank you. It's been such a great journey. We'll bring you back at the very end. We'll see you again. I really appreciate you. We are now going to move all the way over from San Diego to Miami to my friend Jimena Zubiria. How are you, Jimena?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we have our 5 minutes. I want to use it wisely. You know how much I appreciate you. I've really enjoyed getting to know you. You kind of came into our community a little differently. I don't think you, like some people, are aware of Culture Amp and what we're doing, and it wasn't that way. So that was really interesting. That's why I'm excited to hear your take as somebody that found your way to this and have gotten really involved. And I think almost like it was like I've been watching the fire light up inside of you. So I'll start with the same the same question. Like, why are you doing this, and what do you want to share with other community builders? Like, what pulled you to it? What could another community builder learn from your experience as they build their communities?
So thank you, Craig. For me, it's a two-parter. There's, I guess, what we would call selfish reasons, and then there's the selfless reasons. And I'll start with the truth. I'm really aware of this community growth. And it kind of were colleagues who said, hey, this sounds like something we would like to get involved in. And once I met you guys and I attended one of the onboarding sessions, really the values and the principles of what we were trying to build was that first burst of energy. And that's what said to me, I really tapped into that feeling of being energized by what I was hearing, by meeting all of you and knowing what the possibilities were. And I thought, from a personal, selfish perspective, I was like, wow, this really does fill me with energy and actually help. And I must also note that we met a time where the world was falling apart. This is like early days of pandemic times where I feel like community was so necessary and we were so isolated. So it really just came like as a this like blessing of energy and motivation that I really was needing. So from a personal perspective, I just thought, yes, this is something that I'm going to lean really into, even if I felt like my day-to-day was heavy and I was concerned that time was going to be a thing, and I said, it doesn't matter. Like, if something brings you energy and you feel trapped to it and you feel a calling, just run towards it as fast as you can. And then from a different perspective, I also, I spend a lot of my day, or most of my day, working with startup founders on how to build their own company culture, and I spend so much time advising them on these things. And I thought, and a lot of the times it can be quite a lonely experience. People are the one giving a lot of advice out, and I was missing that community, that aspect of people I tap into that know so much more than I can learn from, that I can hopefully contribute to as well. And that's kind of what I found through Culture First. And I also I really love the mission that Culture First brings, right? And it's something that, particularly to South Florida, which is where I am now and where I'm from, but I was away for many years. We always talk about down here how we are trying to make South Florida the place to be, right? We want companies to come here. We want people to come and thrive here. And I felt that if we work on company culture as a whole, like as a community down here, and a place that people think about, hey, this would be a great place to move to and build my life in. And I thought that was one way of contributing to the greater South Florida community as well. Tap into the companies that are already here. Yeah. So those are my reasons.
Yeah, when I hear you talk, and we spoke before, you hit this thing I think oftentimes in my life. It's like build for you, build for the world, and like you're so interesting because a lot of our leads, like say, come into this, know about this world, and like I think for other community builders, you represent like you're growing and learning. You are a member of the community as much as you are a lead in the community. And that you don't need to be some superior or super knowledge. Like you wanted this community, you stepped up, said I'll help build it, and it's your journey as well. I think that's really powerful. Did you get a chance to look at some of those responses? Anything you want to speak to?
I actually didn't answer your second question. That's my advice for the builders out there right now.
Please do.
So I did just want to mention that the Miami or South Florida chapter is rather new, and one thing that I would tell past me, and for those that are starting to is don't get discouraged. It takes step by step, and this is something that all of the other Culture First leads help me understand is it's not going to be right out of the gate. You're going to have boards of people wanting to join. It's about really building those connections one by one almost, and slowly but surely the community will build. So trust that, and don't get obsessed with the metrics that I feel like all of us tech companies are obsessed with metrics in that way. And I think in this perspective, trust the connection is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And that will happen, and people will come back. people feel that connection and feel, and if they don't, that's fine. And maybe this is a new community for them, right?
That's right.
So, don't build a community for other people, build it and you'll be attracted to it. So I think that would be my advice for leads out there.
All right. And do you want to speak to one of the things that came up?
Sure. I was actually looking at how to build trust with the community, especially the leaders. And I think similar to my point before, I think it's about authenticity, right? And realizing that when you are going to build trust, you will connect. And it's not even sometimes we get obsessed with content. And I think we discussed this in one of our meetings in the past, where connection is content most of the time, right? People are coming for connections, and content is like a cherry on top. So, how to build that trust is really making sure that you're as authentic as possible as humans, or even mere collectively, rather. And if you are someone from the community that wants to contribute, state that. Say, hey, this is how I want to contribute, how I can contribute. Use me. Make yourself available, and you will be super appreciative of that. And I think, in the right space, you'll know when you found your people. Basically, and a lot of that has to do with the authenticity.
I call it, finding your tribe. And if I heard correctly, what you said was, I love this. And if you didn't say this, I'm going to take it. But like, connection is content. Like, let connection be part of the content of your gathering. In our responses, that's what people are loving the most. We often do breakout sessions in smaller groups in our meetings. Connection can be your content. I think oftentimes, even myself, content, and forgetting experience and connection. So, Ximena, thank you. You're awesome. We'll bring everybody back in a little bit, but I want to go to the middle of America now, to somebody that was one of what we call our pioneer leads, Rachel Keck. When I say that, we ran 3 chapters in Q4 of last year to basically learn. We didn't have anything in place, and Rachel was one of those. Rachel, you hold a special spot in our Culture First world and for me, so welcome and thank you for coming to do this.
Thanks for asking.
Okay, let's get to it. I want to make sure you get your time. Why do you do this work, and what would you share with other community builders?
Yeah, it sounds like I'm a little similar to Ximena. When I was asked about starting a Culture First chapter in Kansas City, it was because I needed a space as a culture leader that was safe and supportive to wrestle with the hard things that come up in the work of culture. And so I said, yes, I want to build that. I want to build a safe space. What's been really exciting is that I'm helping lead this, but also the greater Culture First community provides that space for me. So it's kind of been a surprise. I didn't expect that greater community to be what it is. But, just like being here with Gary and Jimena and having a global community of leaders that are also supportive, and there is space to wrestle with the hard things with them.
You make such a good point. Well, you bring up a great point. I didn't think about that. And I framed this whole thing around your chapter. And one of the things that's been really powerful for me was like growing this our community of leads that they can then go support the communities they're building. Could you say a little more? Yeah, a little more about that. I think that's something maybe that should come across in this to other people about not just thinking about your chapters, but thinking about the greater community and how you can organize. Say more, because you've been such an interesting part in that.
I mean, I think it's been really fun because you've done such a great job creating spaces for these chapter leads to come together and feel supported and share what they're doing. And that's a way to hear other people. So having some cross collaboration, and we had the LA chapter lead come and speak to our Kansas City chapter this past month. We plan to have one of the London chapter leads share. And I think Gary's gonna come and be a part of the Kansas City event. So really helping people the people in Kansas City know that there is this greater community that they're a part of and can tap into. has been really cool. It's been the surprise. I mean, there's awesome people in Kansas City, and our chapter is very alive. But that's kind of the special surprise inside.
Yeah, and I'll jump in and say, I probably, like many of us, my bias is towards in-person. I love in-person, and at first I was like, I'm losing something. And when I opened up and said, okay, I mean, I still lean that way, but this is what we have, and we're gonna do the best we can. To your point, one of the big surprises was there's been some wins here. Being virtual has allowed us to do things we couldn't do before. People couldn't, leads will come support a brand new chapter kicking off and be at the meeting. Somebody will hear about great content over here and bring it in over here. We couldn't do that before. So if anything from that, I'd also encourage people, what are the wins in this? Because there are some, at least we've experienced, and I hope that you can find those. Okay, anything come out to you from reviewing these that people want to walk away with that you can address?
Yeah, the thing that struck me is measurement, because it's something that's so hard in the cultural world is how to measure progress when you're dealing with feelings and experience and some of the gray areas of life. And so that's kind of the thing that jumped out at me. And one of the things that our chapter, at least our chapter leadership team, tries to keep talking about is kind of, I think Gary mentioned it, like, what do we want people to experience? What do we want the culture to be? In other words, how do we want to do things? And so for Kansas City, our chapter events are around a conversation, and we always want to bring a topic and put it out to the community for conversation. So the measurement is tricky, but if we can identify the behaviors that are important, then we can measure if we're leaning into those behaviors or leaning out. And so that would be my thoughts around that measurement.
Measure. What I'm hearing is, yeah, don't get so fixated on the measurement of the outcome. Think about what behaviors, what you want to see, and then work backwards with your measurement. Like your measurements are our outcome, but like, what are the behaviors? What are the things that we want to drive those outcomes? Is that correct?
Yeah, measuring along the way. I love how you said that. We have kind of this vision of where we want to go, but it's the behaviors along the way that are even more important. We're probably not going to get there because by even now 2020, things are going to change.
Yeah.
So
I love it. Change. You're tapping into my other world when I'm working with organizations around how to take data and how do you measure and what are you trying to drive? So look, we can talk about that. I want to bring everybody together. Gosh, this time flew. And there we are. Look, one of the things we talk a lot about is action as we're moving through this. I'm going to ask in a minute the audience to think about that as well. But I'd like to ask, and I know I'm flipping it on you pretty quickly, but we're all human. We're all working. What's an action or something you're working on in your chapter that you want to be doing as you're moving your chapter forward, and just to share with everybody else? Hey, we're all in this together. So I'll go around. I'll go the same order. Gary, what's something you're thinking about, or something you'd like to take action on to support your chapter? Nope, you're muted, Gary. You're muted.
How can we continue to amplify voices?
Amplify voices. I love it. And that's
people want to be in a community where they feel supported. And so it's a two-way street. So that's our main thing.
Got it. Hey, Ximena, what's an action or something you're thinking about with your chapter?
With my chapter, very particular to my area, is how can we kind of bridge between the different cultures that we have in South Florida, especially we work a lot with Latin America, and how can we kind of bring them in as well, as like using Miami as like a headquarter for that, and kind of deep into Latin America that way as well.
I love it. That excites me. Let's connect and let's talk about that, because I love culturally how do we push this further. And Miami's been a real bridge in my mind, both, you connected to Europe, but also Central and South America. So that's exciting. And Rachel.
I would say for our chapter leadership team, collaborating more and sharing the leadership is probably something that we're as a team really focused on. That's what our action is. I would say personally, I want to support diversity in our chapter. it's a challenge.
Yeah.
Like hard work.
Okay, I have a couple thoughts. I'm going to keep everybody on the screen. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for joining with me. One thing I want to call out, I said there were 3 parts: who and what we're for, the values, and the third is this model, the framework that we use. And I want to call it out real quickly. The welcome, you saw that when we came in, we had music, the connection, that Slido, sharing something about us as individuals. The work, that was when we dug into whatever it is that we're here to do together. Today was this interview. The action, we just reviewed that. I want to ask each of you, just take a second before you move on to your next thing. Was there one little thing you could take from today? One small thing you can do different in your community? Jot that down. And again, it doesn't have, you don't have to change the world. Just what's the one next step you can take a little differently or shift? And did you gain anything from today? And finally, the close. We believe every event should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Oftentimes events get stuck in the middle. We run out of time. So I'm going to go through and just model this, right? I want to do, let's do a 1-word checkout. I'll go around. Gratitude. Thank you. Gary, what's your word?
Connection.
Ximena?
You stole my word.
You can use it. Connection. Rachel?
I'm impressed by your tech.
By what? Oh, by the tech.
I'm impressed by your technology. Yeah.
It worked. Thank you. Hey, thank you, everybody. If you want to learn more, www.cultureamp.com. Up in the right-hand corner, you'll see communities. Go learn more. You want to start one? You can fill out a form. Get in touch with me. Let's start a chapter in your community. Thank you, CMX. Thank you, all of you. And this was great. And I don't know what we do now.
Good timing. I just hopped on. Thank you so much, Craig, Gary, Ximena, and Rachel. Everybody, a virtual round of applause out there. Show us in the comments. Let us know what you loved, your takeaways. Give us some of those clapping emojis there. Thank you guys so much for this very informative session. Love the technology. Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone for joining us that was here, participating in the Slido and commenting here. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. So if you want, there are so many more sessions coming up. Go ahead and check those out. If you haven't yet, I'm going to encourage you to go to the photo booth, take some pictures from yourself. Check out also the sponsors booth there. See what's going on. You can get some swag as well. Lots of things that you can check out during your transition time. And with that, I will see you all in the next session. Bye, Craig. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.